Oh, I push that and the light comes on. And when you don't want to speak,
Hello, doing a sound check.
Hi, Councilmember Perry. We can hear you just fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll go on mute.
hot mic. Touch. This one.
Okay. Okay, I think we can call the meeting to order. It's 5 o'clock. We're going to start with public comment, and just as a reminder, pardon? Oh, there's none here, so I forgot to thank you. Yeah, let's do roll call. Go ahead, Christine or Barbara.
Okay, Chair Shrebnick,
Here.
Board Member Arndt,
Here.
Board Member Zorns,
Here.
and alternate Board Member Dodd.
Here.
We have quorum.
Okay, now we're going to go ahead with.
Sorry, and on Teams, Board Member Perry.
Here, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a couple of people missing because they're in Olympia during legislative session. So we're a little bit smaller group, but we do have quorum tonight. Public comment will be next. And I just want to thank you for turning out. Just want to remind folks that this is the NPRSA Board. So the North Shore Parks and Recreation Service Area Board, and it's responsible for the capital facilities of the senior center and health and wellness buildings. It is not responsible for the operations of the senior center itself. So we're happy to hear, of course, any public comments, but we can only act on things that are within our purview.
Okay, we have a list of people in the room who signed up to provide public comment. After we've gone through that, we'll invite anyone who's online to use the raise hand feature to signify that you would also like to provide comment, and we will call on you in the order that we see you raise your hand. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. We have quite a few to go to. First is Liz Aspen.
Greetings. This is a little deja vu for me here. Thank you all for being champions for seniors. I hope you're able to take the opportunity to read the letter that I sent to you and our board of directors in November. I served on the NPRSA Board of Directors for 8 years as the elected representative of the city of Woodinville. I was instrumental in working with NSC director at the time to bring the inclusion program from the North Woodinville Parks and Recreation Department that was closing to the North Shore Senior Center. I then served 2 terms on the North Shore Senior Center Board of Directors, leaving only when because of term limits. I now volunteer in our Bothell Coffee Bar and am the lead for the Wednesday night happy hour. Serve on our Legacy Society committee. I also volunteer just about everywhere the organization needs me for special events and projects. And I'm also a parent of an inclusion participant. It's my understanding that the North Shore Parks and Rec Service Area from my service is also responsible for contracting the organization that runs services out of the buildings that the NPRSA taxing district owns. We were instructed by the office in October that we needed to work with NSC Board of Directors to resolve any issues we had. Between 50 and 70 people attended the December Board of Directors meeting to express their concerns and opinions regarding the implementation of CEO's reorganization, which resulted in the loss of key longstanding personnel. Feedback was also given to the CEO regarding the reorganization at public Q&As at each of our 4 sites. At one of these meetings, he stated that this reorganization was like building a plane and while flying it. Out of the Board of Directors meeting, the only thing we were assured was that they would conduct an HR audit to hear concerns from staff regarding the CEO's management. We have heard nothing. It was supposed to be resolved by the middle of December. With the author's permission, I have brought many of the letters that were sent to the Board of Directors over the past 2 months. I hope you all, and who's not here will get them. We'll take the time to read each of them because we feel that we have not been heard and being dismissed by our own Board of Directors. They're heartfelt accounts of our personal experiences, encounters with our CEO and Board of Directors. Please read them, and I will give copies to them. We are deeply concerned about the financial viability of NFC under the current leadership. It is pretty clear that our financials have suffered under the current CEO's leadership and that we are in the precarious position right now. We no longer have any reserves or investments. Being on the NPRSA board for 8 years, NSC board for 6 years, I understand that finances ebb and flow, but I have witnessed a slow decline in our available resources under our current CEO. We should have a minimum of 3 to 6 months in reserves at all times. This current failure has not been due to the impact of the COVID pandemic.
That's 3 minutes, please. Conclude your remarks.
Excuse me?
That's 3 minutes. Please conclude your remarks. Thank you.
This is also a consistent willingness to engage in any type of fundraising by our CEO. We have a history of raising over $150,000 annually through auctions, galas, or Taste of North Shore. The CEO has stated to me that these types of fundraisers are only fundraisers and therefore not worth the effort. Well, I ask, who do we call upon when we have needs? We call upon our friends. We consistently put up roadblocks saying whatever is proposed takes too much staff time. Staff has expressed to me that they miss working together with each other and members on behalf of NSC.
I'm sorry, your time's expired.
Okay. I'm
We
just
we
gonna
would
finish with-
encourage you to provide your comments.
I
in
have a copy
written
for everybody
to-
right here.
Thank you.
I would
Appreciate it.
just
We
like
do
to
have
say-
several other people that want to speak, so
Okay.
we want to be respectful of everybody's time.
I am certainly respectful. I
you.
would like to ask that you hold a special session meeting with our board of directors and our members to explore all aspects of our current situation and to help us create a plan solving these critical issues.
Thank
There's
you.
a lot of information in here. Please don't ignore it.
Okay, next is Pat Olson.
Hello, my name is Pat Olson, and I came with prepared marks, but I appreciate that the NPRSA making it very clear you're not interested in the operations side. I want to make the connection between what operations are at North Shore Senior Center and the happiness of seniors and the ability to pass the levy that's coming up, which really does make everything pertinent if we're all advocates on behalf of seniors and the senior services that the cities are funding for the buildings. I appreciate the buildings piece, but if the seniors aren't happy and we're trying to pass a levy again, seniors have helped do those things very successfully for the entire time that the NPRSA has been in existence. And so you'll be relying on us to get that work done. So I just ask that you continue to be advocates on behalf of seniors, not just buildings. Thank you.
Next is Jane McNamee. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm an NSC member and I've been a volunteer for 2.5 years, helping at the Health and Wellness Center and also serving on the advisory council. I have extensive experience working with nonprofit boards. My board experience includes serving the former Group Health Board, a nonprofit private school, as a consultant for Bellevue Botanical Gardens Board. In addition, I work with senior groups, large ones, including the Senior Caucus, which is part of Kaiser Permanente now, and started several medical center councils. We have some issues that need to be addressed beyond the buildings. Governance is huge. I'm a person of governance. The NSC's board is not in compliance with its own bylaws and the Nonprofit Corporation Act, which is part of the state of Washington. It currently only has 9 directors when it should be 11 to 15. It should not be conducting board business until it appoints at least 2 more directors. So this is an organization that is not in compliance with its own bylaws. The board needs to understand its role, which is to govern and to lead this organization. They need to have a strategic plan. Nothing's in the works, nor is a fundraising plan. They need a plan for the future of this whole organization. Right now in the United States, over 12,000 seniors are hitting 65 in the United States every day. That's a huge demographic shift that and I'm sure you guys know this, but if you're looking at 15% of the population growing to over 20% of the population in the next 5 years are going to be 65 and older. It's an opportunity for North Shore Senior Center to expand its services. And really, this is especially for people who are on fixed incomes. Many of our seniors who are members are on fixed incomes and need the security and the great services that are provided by the Senior Center. There is a comment out there that we should be promoting ourselves to 40 to 60-year-olds. Well, I have never seen a 40 to 60-year-old walk in this building at the Senior Center and want to become a member. They don't want to be known that they're getting older. Are you kidding? I don't want to be called senior. So, I mean, if there's a real ageist society we live in, and we need a senior center to do this. As the number of volunteers at North Shore Senior Center dwindles, day-to-day operations have declined. And really, this organization used to have a vibrant senior community, vibrant volunteer community, and it's appalling to see this end. We really need NPRSA support to right the ship. Thank you.
Next is Barbara Anderson.
I'm Barbara Anderson. Until June of last year, I served as Vice President of the NSC Board of Directors. While I am uncomfortable addressing these issues publicly, I believe it is necessary. And this is why we're coming to you. After exhausting all North Shore Senior Center avenues to address our concerns, I urge you tonight to use your leverage with NSC Board to bring about the transparency and change needed to secure the success of the upcoming levy and restore NSC. As the owner of the NSC buildings, the grantor of its contract, and the taxation authority accountable to voters, you do have the influence required to command the board's attention in ways that NSC members cannot. Historically, NSC thrived on the dedication of volunteers and a lean staff. However, the current leadership under the CEO and board has deteriorated to the point where NSC is no longer a strong and healthy organization. The staff has been decimated, with several top staff members leaving recently due to bullying. Volunteers are resigning at an alarming rate. In just the last 2 days, 5 core volunteers have stepped down. These volunteers serve as canaries in the coal mine, as they have deep insight into the membership, staff, and day-to-day challenges. The canaries have died. The current leadership's disregard for the expertise, skills, and voices of NSC seniors will haunt the levy if we're not careful. Time and again, leadership has dismissed ideas, rejected volunteers, and even declined financial donations that do not align with the CEO's agenda. During the November board meeting, as you've heard, over 60 seniors voiced their concerns, only to be dismissed due to earlier false statements from the CEO and president, statements that the board accepted without question. Documentation of those presentations is included in your packet. Longtime dedicated volunteers have left, citing bullying, intimidation, threats, retaliation, and the spreading of falsehoods by the CEO and former president. Personally, when I attempted to verify financial information last spring, I faced severe retaliation. In December, I received a text message threatening consequences unless I fully supported the CEO and board. I have filed a formal complaint, and a copy is available for your review. The NSC board operates in a vacuum, composed of good people, but they rely solely on the CEO and president for information, as no board members actively participate in NSC activities. This reliance has resulted in the acceptance of false information and a distorted financial picture. NSC members have tried all internal avenues to address these issues, but have been blocked at every turn. We now turn to you, an external authority with both influence and accountability to voters. I respectfully request these 2 things. Require your tenant to conduct a forensic audit that provides a clear, accurate picture of NSC's financial and operational status, and encourage your tenant to fill current board vacancies with active NSC members. This will ensure the board has objective and diverse sources of information. Your intervention
That's 3 minutes, please.
Yes.
Conclude your.
Last sentence, please. Your intervention can restore hope and vitality to NSC, strengthen its partnership for the levy, and enhance the ability to provide exceptional services for seniors. Thank you.
Next is Naomi Joy.
Thank you. I'm Naomi Joy. I earned an MBA at Yale University and hold the Certified Financial Analyst designation. On Monday, I wrote a letter of resignation to the NSC. It was addressed to Nathan Phillips, Bing Tang, volunteer coordinator, the board, and the advisory council. I'm writing to formally resign from my volunteer position at the front desk and as outing planner for the North Shore Senior Center, effective today, January 13th. This decision has not come easily, and as I have greatly valued the mission of the North Shore Senior Center and the opportunity to contribute to the goals. After careful consideration, I have decided to leave due to ongoing issues related to poor management practices and poor financial management. Included in this is an example is the recent reorganization that made it increasingly difficult for me to continue offering my time and energy in a productive and fulfilling way. My decision to step away comes with a heavy heart, but I believe it is in the best interest of me and the organization, unless changes can be made. It is worth noting also that 8 of my front desk volunteer friends have made the difficult decision to leave as well, which reflects the challenges we have all faced in recent months. This is not solely an issue about volunteers. Significant staff members have left as well, further highlighting the broader internal issues that affect everyone's ability to perform at their best. I sincerely hope that moving forward, the organization will address these concerns and work towards creating a more supportive and efficient environment for those who continue to serve. If the situation improves, I would be open to considering a return to volunteer with the North Shore Senior Center. So I ask you, the NPRSA, to consider seriously the issues going on with the tenancy at the North Shore Senior Center. Thank you.
Next is Mark Smutney.
Good evening. My name is Mark Smutney. I'm a resident of Bothell and a member at North Shore Senior Center. In my capacity as a volunteer, I have taught courses on contemporary political issues, the most recent one being on the personalities and positions of the 2024 presidential elections. I also own a company, Civic Reinventions. I primarily work with nonprofits that are in serious trouble. This one is in serious trouble. And I would argue that this board has a fiduciary and legal responsibility to make sure that what goes on in the North Shore Senior Center is not abusive or toxic or damaging of employees or volunteers. I have personally experienced by a board officer abusive and toxic behavior. Though I have decided not to file a formal complaint, I want you to recognize that this is a serious matter and that you do have both a legal, fiduciary, political, and ethical responsibility to investigate the troubles. And I concur with the remarks that the other people have said.
Next, we have Mike Millman.
Hi, my name is Mike Millman. I'm currently serving as mayor of Woodinville. Wanted to welcome everybody to our city hall. Switching gears a little bit, I wanted to talk about the community rec center and pool that you guys will be discussing a letter of support later. Woodinville Council has taken on the heavy lift of identifying and paying for, in a process of acquiring property for the community rec center and pool. We are in the process of working with our partners at the county and federal level of acquiring money for rec center and a pool. We're hoping for a letter of support. So far, we have letters of support from the North Shore School District. We have letters of support from various swim teams. We have letters of support from Woodinville Arts Alliance, Woodinville Repertory Theater, a local wrestling club, underwater robotics, water polo. And I would just want to highlight that because you guys have done the heavy work of identifying this need in our NPRSA area. And this is something that will serve everything from seniors doing water aerobics and other activities, and also our children learning how to swim. It's a necessary and vital infrastructure that will be added to our community. I'm hoping that you will support that. It's in Woodinville specifically, it's probably our top priority as different opportunities for recreation, education, community center, swimming, all these things. So I hope we can get your support. We have We have offers going out to the 3 identified parcels and ready to go. And so we hope to continue your support and all the work on this. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Paula Walker.
Hi, I'm not here about the swimming pool. I'm here about the North Shore Senior Center. And as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not from this area. And I'm here tonight because of the importance of the senior center for new people moving into the area to meet people. And that is why I am a member, and that is why I was a front desk volunteer. Most of my concerns have been voiced by other people, but I just would like to, and I know organizationally that's not your purview. However, I just want you, when you look at the financials that come out, I believe they're coming out shortly, I want you to consider that there are 6 staff positions that remain unfilled: philanthropy director, permanent facilities manager, membership coordinator, food bank supervisor, community dining supervisor, and volunteer coordinator. None of those salaries will be reflected in the finances. So I just asked that that's quite a bit of money that will be still in our pocket because those people have not been hired. Well, thank you for your consideration.
Last is George Jan.
My name is George John. I'm a longtime owner in Woodinville, resident. I'm a member of the senior center and occasional volunteer. I applaud you for taking all the comments that the audience has, not limiting the length of time of the total number. I noticed in looking through the agenda that there's some 3 parcels that in the vicinity of the Wellness Health and Wellness Center, and the history seems to be a lot of confusion about who owns it and procrastination with recording some of the various documents. Taking 10 years procrastination makes me actually feel pretty good about my level of procrastination. I also noticed that there's $10 million is estimated for over 5 years for repair and or rather replacement of systems within the senior center health and wellness. And I would urge you to consider as an alternative strategy, fix when broken, rather than replace on a schedule. Those are 2 strategies, and it's another method that I'd urge you to consider. Thank you.
If there are any members of the public online who would like to provide comment, please use the raise hand feature in Microsoft Teams, and we will call on you to provide comment in the order that we see you raise your hand. And I think we have no further comment at this time, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you again to everybody who is here. And for those of you who commented, we are listening and will, I'm sure, be looking at some of the issues. Okay, so we're going to move on to the consent agenda. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I would like to move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Online? We need all of our,
I think Councilmember Perry's left. So it would just be the four of you.
do we still have quorum with that?
Yes, we
Okay,
still have quorum.
okay, all right, so we're good. All right, thank you. We are close on that. Okay, so let's talk about the quitclaim issue, resolution R2403. Christine, I think
Yep.
you're presenting on this. Thank you.
That will be me. Thank you. So a little bit of background on this. Back in 2003, the city of Bothell deeded over 3 parcels of property for us to build our buildings on. And so we in Bothell wanted to construct a new lift station on the undeveloped parcel in 2013. After that, I believe last year, our board approved some taxes to go back to the North Shore Senior Center as they had been paying. We found out through an audit that they had been paying for the taxes on a parcel that they weren't using. So we took over that responsibility, and our plans were to potentially build on that parcel. But as we met with the city of Bothell, they have their lift station there. We wanted to make sure that we weren't impacting their egress to the lift station. We found out that because of the easements, that parcel is actually not usable for us. So we would like to, staff recommend to basically quitclaim that parcel back to the city as it is unusable. And it will relieve us from paying any taxes levied on the parcel moving forward.
Thank you. Questions from the body for staff?
Just a comment that it's a very practical and sensible move. So I don't have anything that comes to mind that should be questioned.
Yeah, I just, can you, thank you. Can you describe it a little bit, like the location and the size? Is
Yeah.
there,
So the parcel is just under an acre, and it is, when you're looking at the health and wellness building, it's the property that's to the left. So right now at the beginning, there's just a driveway, there's the lift station, it's gated off. And so the issue is that the easement actually goes straight down the middle of the property, and there's actually a sewer clean out at the back of the property. So trying to navigate the city in and out using that area, it doesn't, it's not usable to even make it a parking lot. So
yeah, okay. Yeah, and that's kind of the description that I was hoping to elicit to kind of give us a little more sense of what we're up against there. All right, very good. And I think in the agenda packet, it says R2403, but I'm assuming that's 2024. So it is the R2501, correct? Okay.
sorry about that.
Yeah, so the chair will entertain a motion to approve resolution R2401, authorizing the transfer of King County parcel 0826059358 to the city of Bothell.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion?
I'll jump in really quickly and say thank you for catching this. It is silly to pay taxes on something that we cannot use. So I appreciate the good solution.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no more discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And do we have anybody back online? I heard kind of back and forth there. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thanks, Chair, for recognizing me with a nod, just for anyone who, One thing I don't see on the agenda that I typically see on our council agendas is a time to bring up other issues or concerns for discussion. I don't want to do it out of pace, but when could I do that?
That is excellent. Usually we should be approving the agenda. That should be an agenda item. At the very beginning, call to order and approving the agenda, which we didn't do. Yes. So are there changes, any suggested changes or additions to the agenda?
You know, I might have some.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask everyone and see if we have a majority who would also be interested in an executive session with our legal team. We've had concerns raised, and given that we are a very specific kind of district who can do very specific things, some of the things requested, I honestly don't know are possible, but I would like us to talk and ask those questions. So I'm hoping we can direct our staff to set up in a future meeting a session with our legal team so we can ask those questions. So that's that. I have 3, so that's one item. So I don't know if we take a vote, or I know we need, on our council, we need like a majority to say, yes, I want to do that.
Yeah, maybe give us a kind of all of them and then we can figure out
Yeah,
if
so
we all
that
go
would
together.
be the first request. The second request is I was hoping, Chair, that you could reach out to the president of the Senior Center Board. And I would love some reciprocal board interaction where we have one of our members on their board. I don't know that statutorily we can add a member of their board to our board, because again, we have like very specific things. So we could probably ask our lawyer in the aforementioned session if we can do that, or if we can just, you know, set up a, whether that's liaison or what, but ways to really add some interconnectedness between the boards. And then the mayor of Woodinville spoke about a letter of support. I know that the Bothell City Council, Councilmember Zorns and I are going to be working on that in a future meeting in Bothell, but do we want to extend that letter, and when would we discuss that?
The letter of support is on our agenda.
Okay. Oh, my bad.
So yeah, so the first 2 things, and I thank you, and thank you for calling out that we didn't approve the agenda. Yeah, I would love to hear from other 2. I appreciate these suggestions and would be favorable to at least the first, which might lead into the second. Yeah.
So I am favorable, given our restrictions, we can't have an executive session this evening.
Yeah.
So that is a future agenda item, but I would be open to adding a discussion item at the end of our agenda this evening to talk about ways we might be interested in exploring for that board interaction piece, because I think there are probably things that we could do that don't require legal action on that one, or at least explore that tonight in the light of all the public comments and the audience that we have.
Yes, let's discuss it at the end. I think that having a discussion with legal is a great idea in that it really defines what our roles and responsibilities are, and we stay in our lane. That's very, very important. So
Okay, so we
that was a good
definitely
idea.
have some interest to having a continued discussion. So
Yeah,
let's
and
bring
maybe
these
we
up
could-
toward the
and
end so that we make sure that
Yeah,
we get
and
through.
then I think we were taught, I can't remember where I saw this, if it was in this agenda packet, but there was some discussion about getting members from this board over to have a communication.
Right, which is,
with
yeah.
which you were talking about.
yeah.
So I don't know, I can't recall if that's an agenda item or not, but I know that it's in the works somewhere.
And
Great.
I think one of us could join the NSC board by
Let's have
however they,
this
yeah, you're right. We'll
discussion
talk
at
later.
the
Okay.
end. And, you know, just so that you know, I would not have let this issue go even if it wasn't on our agenda. So. Oh, sorry. So we did action item 4. Let's proceed to the youth and community center action items. I think the first one is the approval of the ARC contract extension, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
which we have, I believe, talked about before, but
have.
this would be the formal action on it. Do you
Yep,
want to go ahead and
yep.
present?
So we entered, the NPRSA entered into a professional service agreement with ARC Architects February 7th. The original term was for 1 year. Because of basically phase one of the process for site selection taking a little bit longer as we wanted to really do a deep dive into the different options. We have hit our 1 year into this project. And so this asks that the board approve an addendum which extends the end date of the study to December 31st, 2025. This has no impact on the contract price, the agreed upon contract price. So this is just strictly amending the end date.
Yeah, questions for staff?
So it does not impact the cost of the contract and it doesn't impact the scope of the work either.
Correct.
It's just extending the date.
Correct.
Thank you.
Other questions, and then we'll go on to the motion. Yeah,
Would you like a motion? I don't have any questions.
sure.
I don't want to
Chair
jump
will
in somebody else's
entertain a
question.
motion to approve contract addendum.
Okay, I move to approve the contract addendum A240101 with ARC Architects. 25. 24? Oh, it's an addendum, yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
an amendment to
To a
existing
20.
contract
Yeah,
A2401.
yeah.
This one is
Yeah.
right.
You did good. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, great. So any further discussion or questions? Okay, if not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Right. It passes. All right, so now we get to that topic that we were just talking about, the City of Woodinville letter of support for land acquisition. I believe this is a letter of support for a grant, though, correct?
So it's supporting their land acquisition for a grant, like they're applying for a grant, yes.
Yes, to acquire the land.
Yep.
Yes, right. So, yeah, go ahead and.
Yeah, so,
somebody wants to present on this, yeah.
Yep, the city of Woodinville has allocated $6 million toward the purchase of property to be used in the NPRSA's Youth Community Center study. Woodinville is seeking an additional $3.5 million through a federal grant application in 2026 and has requested a letter of support from local cities and counties. Staff is recommending that the board approve the letter of support, sorry, for Woodinville's land acquisition. We have prepared a draft letter that was in your packet.
Yeah, is there a way you can throw that up on the screen? I don't know if there is.
It'll take me a second, but yes.
Okay, thank you. I think that would help. It is in the packet though, thank you. And while they're doing that, any questions for staff?
No, just that, reading through it in our packet, it was very well written. So whoever crafted it, thank you.
And I believe it does not, I mean, it's a letter of support for a grant application, so it doesn't obligate us to, support the purchase if the due diligence comes back haywire and, yeah, okay, so just underscoring that point. Yeah, the top part I think is just sort of background.
Let me know when you'd like me to scroll down.
I think you can probably move down a little bit, unless I hear anybody saying no. Go ahead. There's a little bit more on the next page, yeah. It doesn't exactly say we're not obligated and that there will be a due diligence period that would, but I'm okay with the letter the way it is. But I do want to just underscore that point. Questions from the group? Discussion? Yeah.
I mean, it is not a question, but simply a comment that I think it is wise for this body to support the the grant application if we would like to have property purchased for this project. Obviously, as a representative from the city of Woodinville, I have some interest in seeing this move forward, but the city is looking to help spread the cost of this project ultimately as widely as we can. So we're seeking that funding from our federal government, and we will be sending a delegation to DC in March, and they will take these letters of support along with our other issues from the city and meet with our federal representatives and help move this process forward. So we are hopeful and we would love the support of this board.
Thank you. I think, do we have an actual motion language or not? Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to authorize staff to write this letter of support for Woodinville's request for grant monies in their land acquisition process. So it's a letter of support for the grant. Oh, sorry.
I move to authorize staff to write a letter of support for Woodinville's request for grant monies in their land acquisition process.
Second.
Any further discussion? Yeah.
It's not always clear when you come to maybe one meeting out of a series of meetings that the other work that has been done. So I just want to thank the city of Woodinville for really kind of sticking their neck out there and finding a parcel that's in the middle of our district that is well served by transit and could be a good community center if all of our stars align. And so I'm very happy to get this letter going and to see like what cool thing we can create this generation. So I'm very excited about this and very happy to support it.
I also want to, you took some of the kinds of things I wanted to say as well. I just really want to thank Woodinville. There's been a lot of work going into siting and looking at different places across our region. This is not an easy task to find that kind of land that might be available and to, be willing to fund the purchase, at least part of the purchase price. It will be a tremendous asset to our region and a long time coming. It's many, many years in the buildup and trying to figure out how to get a community center and pool built in this area. Anything else? All right, so we have a motion and a second. We had some discussion. If no other discussion, let's take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, motion passes. Thank you. All right, so now we're on to items related to our upcoming levy, which would be voting on this in the fall of 2025, which is coming right up. And the levy period is 2026 through 31. So the current 6-year levy cycle ends this year. So that's why we're having this planning process. All right. I think Christine, do you want to take it away?
Take it away. So I just wanted to kind of put into a graphic our levy priorities and what that looks like for our board in making decisions in the coming months leading up to our ballot measure in November. And so as we look through these 5 items that we're going through action items tonight, these are kind of our main priorities that are going to helps us narrow down what a potential levy rate could be. And then we will have the board approve that and then go into drafting ballot measure language. So we're going to be looking at kind of a maintenance reserve strategy, and then also a levy consultant update, what our admin services look like, and then going into our potential cost sharing program that we've discussed over the past 6 months. So any questions about, and we'll make sure that these priority kind of timeline gets sent to you all individually. So are there any questions about this graphic? No? Okay. So we'll move on to levy consultant update. So as you know, NPRSA staff has done a request for qualifications for levy consultant update in Q4. We've actually done that twice now and had no responses to our advertisement. The NPRSA staff then we kind of pivoted, and we are members of MRSC, so we utilized that roster and contacted 6 agencies through email, phone calls, and we also sent regular letters in the mail. And so we did actually, so this says that we did not receive responses, but we did actually receive a response yesterday. And so we are in conversations now with that firm, and we hope that we will receive an estimate from them in the next couple of days. So as soon as I get updates about that, I will make sure to update the board accordingly.
Thank you for your diligence on this. I know this has not been a quick, easy process, but to have someone to help us gauge what is needed in our engagement with community and the information that needs to go out and strategy would be very, very helpful. And of course, just to be clear, a governmental body does not run a campaign, but does provide information.
Right. So we're at 6B now, administration services.
Hang on just a sec.
Oh, sorry.
I just had one question on that. I mean, hopefully this conversation will pan out to a successful contract, but I'm just curious that if for some reason the stars don't align there, what is the kind of next steps or the drop dead date for this process where we would need to pivot as a board?
So I think that even though we're in contact with this one vendor staff, we have also are reaching out to kind of our other agencies that we work with or partner with. I know I'm trying to get a hold of someone at the North Shore School District to see who they've worked with in the past on levies. And so we're still working. We're just not putting all of our eggs in one basket. So we're going to try to figure that out. Hopefully, if we're not able to pan something out by February, March, then our board will have to look at other options there. Hopefully we.
I think the sentiment was it would be great to have that,
Yes.
and we wanted it.
Yes.
We could function without one, and I think some of the board, expressed that, and so that might have to be our fallback if we don't find somebody, but that is certainly not the preferred option, as you know.
I did hear one little bit of good news today. So what I'm hearing is that the King County Parks and Recreation levy will not be on the same ballot as our levy. So that is also great news. Yep.
Okay. All right. Other questions about this? Yes.
No, I'm just gonna make a comment, and I think it's because I'm so old. But I sit there and I think, the people that you reached out to, could they not have had the courtesy of just saying why they weren't going to, instead of just letting, it be silent, crickets rain? So there is a side of me that if I were in your shoes, and this is not a man, and this isn't even a request, but I would be sorely tempted to say, so why didn't you respond? And what can we learn from this? But on the off chance that someone who is in the power, in the position of doing this job and they didn't respond, it would have been a nice courtesy to know why. That's all I wanted to say.
Definitely.
And I think you mentioned to me kind of in our one-on-one that you are trying to reach out by phone to try
Oh, yeah,
to find that
we
kind of
called, yeah.
information. Yeah. So
Good,
thank you.
Good. Somebody needs to hold their feet to the fire, and because it would help for us to know as well.
Definitely.
All right, go ahead.
All right. So 6B Administration Services Subcommittee. Actually, I think Becky is going to present this one.
I'll take this one. My name is Becky Range. I'm the Assistant City Manager at Bothell and also devote 10% of my time to help out with NPRSA. So I'd like to speak to this item tonight. Board members, thank you for your time. This particular agenda item is asking that you as a board appoint a subcommittee to help prepare recommendations for how administrative services might be handled for a future potential levy. So as you know, the City of Bothell is handling the administrative services for NPRSA staff at this time. We think in order to prepare for a potential future levy and the expiration of that current ILA with the City of Bothell that expires at the end of this year, in alignment with the current levy, if we want to prepare for the next levy, a subcommittee would be helpful to discuss and brainstorm and put forth recommendations to the full board on how we might handle administration services for this next phase. And so it's up to you how you would like to appoint members to that committee. Our expectation is that they could then form a work group and address all the different options that are out there and then bring back recommendations according to the timeline back to the full board for consideration.
So, questions from this group for Becky? I have some too.
Yeah. Thank you, Becky. Good to see you again. Two meetings in a row. We should meet tomorrow night too and just go for a threefer.
Yeah.
Part one gets me a little bit. Could you tell us before the ILA with the City of Bothell what the staffing model really looked like for NPRSA? We have a pretty lean staff, and I can't imagine we're hiring more people. So I'm just that one kind of gets me a minute.
For clarity, do you mean the staffing situation for NPRSA prior
Yes.
to?
Yeah.
Well, there's probably many people in the room that have much more knowledge and history on NPRSA than I, but I don't know that we had any paid staff for NPRSA previous, maybe we had some paid staff.
We had one volunteer position who handled all the communications, and also we had an accountant who volunteered review of the finances, and that was the extent of it.
That's amazing. It also gives me pause in the sense that NPRSA, to my understanding, is about to surpass a statutory limit on how much money we bring in. That opens us up to regular audits with the state auditor. And that's a very hefty process. At the city level, it takes a lot of staff time, and it's not like a lot of other things that you would handle as a person. I also kind of believe that when people put in effort, we should pay them for it. And if you're a volunteer and things get too tough, or life happens, right? Like there's a lot there that leaves it open. So I guess I would love to have a discussion amongst the board. Like, what are we thinking about with the staffing model? Is
That's
it
the purpose of the work group?
Yeah, I would like to make sure the work group knows what the board is looking for, because obviously it's not a quorum of our members. So if they come back and they say, we think we can go with a volunteer, and then the board as a whole is like, ooh, yikes, or the other way around, whatever it is, like, I think we need a little bit more guardrails here. That's very open. What are we looking to do as a board?
So if I could explain a little bit. So I think the current City of Bothell as the administering agency, I think our current expectation or our recommendation to the full board, having learned an awful lot in the last 5 years, is that you definitely need professionally paid staff to execute any type level or scope of a levy. That would be our recommendation. I do think that we are very flexible. The city of Bothell is very open to creative ideas on how the administration and services would be handled. But I do think there's going to need to be paid staff. So just for a little bit of background, when the original ILA was negotiated between the city of Bothell and NPRSA, we really didn't know what exactly would be needed for the administrative services. And so in the beginning, there were different positions that were negotiated. There were different levels of time. And so that's been slightly adjusted as we learn more. I will say it is a little bit challenging with the current staff because they really don't get a level of support from the City of Bothell Finance Department. It's really kind of a one-stop shop that they kind of do everything together. And so we've made some improvements there, but I think we're all still learning.
Yeah, no, and that totally makes sense. I would invite my fellow board members to share kind of just, I would like to understand more the goals of the subcommittee and not leave it quite so open. And we could craft those.
I mean, we can just sort of go down the pike. I think that the goal, we talked about this at a couple different meetings, is to gear up for the levy. So to further understand what the staffing options might be, whether there's any adjustments, if any, that might be useful to the NPRSA. So that is the sum total, sort of learning from Bothell staff about how things are going, what support might be needed, if there's any adjustments. That's my understanding. Any thoughts?
So I'm assuming that these will be fairly detailed conversations about the current roles within the NPRSA, what their workload looks like, and what workload is either needed in the future or not able to be done currently, that kind of thing, so that we can make staffing adjustments in the next levy lift, so that we include the funds in the next levy lift. I'm curious. This seems like a lot of meetings to achieve that. I'm curious about what kind of input this board would be asked, or the subcommittee members would be asked to provide in that situation, because I don't know that we necessarily have all the expertise maybe that we would need. So I'm curious to learn more about the expectations of those subcommittee members.
I think the first questions that we will be asking is, does the board want to continue an ILA with the City of Bothell to perform administrative services? I know that seems kind of high level, but for us, that's really the most important question. Do you even want to continue with the City of Bothell doing the administrative services? And the answers to that question will then inform next steps. If the board in full agrees that they're satisfied with the City of Bothell's performance and they would like for the City of Bothell to continue filling that role, then I think we can hone in a little bit more on any improvements that we need to make, any administrative efficiencies we might need to make, how staffing might need to be adjusted, changed. Does that help at all, Board Member Art? So it may not actually take a lot of time. Right. We just wanted to give you the flexibility and the ability to provide as much guidance or as little guidance as you'd like.
Yeah, and I'm guessing it would be 2, maybe 3 meetings at the most. Yeah. And that would inform the ILA that would be drafted at that point. Yeah.
I was not a part of the initial levy. I was, more of an observer. My memory of it is that NPRSA went from essentially a very volunteer situation to the then city manager at Bothell panicking because of the state the NPRSA was in and the building. And as I recall, her husband stepped in and was doing some of the accounting. It was kind of an all hands on deck. I have a partiality to Bothell. We go through our audits very, very well. I have a lot of trust in the staff from our city. It would take buy-in from everybody on NPRSA. I think for me, the starting point, if you were to put me on that board, my starting point would be, does the city of Bothell staff want to continue? That's the first question I want to know. Is it, and are there conditions or things that you want to have changed? Tell us what those are, and then we talk amongst ourselves on what, does it work, or do we need to tweak it, and that kind of thing. That's the way I would approach it. So.
And what we're here to do today is decide if we're okay with having a work group to talk about these things, right?
Right, but
So-
I'm just saying that for me, going
Yeah.
at ground zero and coming and saying, let's create this, an ILA offer out there. I kind of want to know what's working. It doesn't seem broken. It seems like it could run smoother. And so what are the conditions of running it smoother?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think that's, I mean, yes, that is what we're talking about is from a relationship with Bothell as a city, from the staffing model within that. So all of that. I don't know that we have a motion about this, right? I mean, we just needed to, we need to decide whether we're okay with forming a subcommittee, and if there's anybody interested in being on that, who would that be?
Yes.
And there may be people who aren't here today that would be interested, since several of our members are not here. I know I would be interested. Anybody else from this group?
I would be interested. I'm really curious about this, as maybe evidenced by my 1,000 questions. And it's something where if we have done a lot to kind of make sure that our buildings are able to continue to serve what they need to do, I don't want to slide back on that progress.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want just the one yikes, things are crazy sort of situation to happen, and that's already happened. I do see that alternate member Lausis has raised his hand though.
Oh, great. Nathan, hello. You want to comment?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I had a quick question, just procedurally speaking, because I'm also curious about this and potentially assisting. But as a designated alternate and non-voting member, when we have a quorum, does my presence at any sort of subcommittee constitute another member and put us at a quorum? I want to be very mindful of that and reserve the right for full members to participate first.
Well, and I think the other piece would be having kind of geographic distribution. And I don't know that we, in work groups, we're really concerned in the same way about quorums. I mean, it's a work group that would make a recommendation to the voting body.
I think
So-
because it's a subcommittee, it can't have a quorum of voting members. What I
Oh,
don't.
it can't have a
Yeah,
quorum.
I think what I don't know
Oh,
is if an
okay.
alternate who may or may not vote would make a quorum, because
That's
we
a
don't
good
have
question.
council alternates, so then that's kind of.
No idea.
I should have made that clear. I think the ideal number for the subcommittee is 3.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was just sort of thinking we were talking about. We have 2. Is there anybody else? Yeah.
I don't always love volunteering for subcommittees, but I do think that in the in doing good geographic representation and representation from all of the cities, that I think myself I'd be willing to step in, or I guess we don't have any of our county representatives here at the moment, but I think that having a representative from Woodinville would be beneficial.
And if we do have one of the other folks, the other county representatives or other folks, I would be happy to have them take my spot on it. So, all right. So I think where are we? Do you have what you need
That's exactly
for
what we need.
direction on this? Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Logistically, I love my logistics. Will you be reaching out to us to schedule a meeting, or should one of us email you?
Absolutely will. I'll be scheduling
Okay.
the meetings with you at your convenience, and we'll try to make it as painless as possible.
Becky, can you reach out to our other members to?
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that question and good discussion. Thank you. Cost sharing. We've talked about this, and so we're just bringing it back for formal action to be incorporated into the levy budget. Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, that's all right. Did we actually need a motion on that? I doesn't feel like we need to do that. Yeah, okay. All right, so cost sharing. This is the history. Do you want to just walk us briefly through it, or yeah?
Yep. So over the past year, we've kind of, our board has talked through different versions of what cost sharing could look like, specifically pertaining to the senior center building in Kenmore. And so in July 2024, the board expressed interest in a possible cost sharing program. And so this was also presented at the joint board meeting in October, and there was good consensus there on the full board and the senior center board that some kind of capital repairs cost sharing program would be something that that we wanted to add into the scope of the next levy. And so staff met with, yeah, we can go to the next slide. Staff met with our legal consultant and developed program parameters based on what we can and can't do as a public agency and service area. So the recommended parameters would be restricted to North Shore Senior Center operated facilities owned by the NPRSA or its member agencies. Capital improvements only restricted to projects that Parks and Recreation Service areas may complete per RCW. That the North Shore Senior Center and the member agency apply jointly for funding, and that funding is reimbursable only, and that budget not exceed $100,000 annually, matched by the member agency. And that obviously there needs to be some kind of written policy approved by the board.
Questions about this?
Thank you. I think we've had a lot of discussions on this topic and we've thrown out a lot of ideas, and I just thank you for going back to our legal team and kind of clarifying everything down into a few simple parameters on this. I know that we've talked about it over and over, and these seem to be in line with what we had discussed. And as long as they have the stamp of approval from our legal department, then I feel like they are something that we can start writing that policy on.
All of that. Thank you. I'm glad you went first. The only thing that gives me pause is we have yet to really set a levy rate and really firm up what's included in the levy. There's talk about if we try to aim higher or if we try to stay the same, if we try lower, like there's a lot of ways it can go. I'm not ready to say no matter what happens, this should be part of it. But if we do go like same or higher, I'm comfortable with it being part of it. So also help me procedurally if that would be something I would bring up as like an amendment once someone has made this motion, or if we should somehow settle that now. But I don't, if like, especially if we go to a lower levy rate and we're still trying to get our buildings up to the shape that they should be in, I don't know. It gives me pause to add more avenues to spend money, you know.
Yeah, I would like to put that this would be just adding a budget line item for $100,000 annually. And that the board in our policy, most likely the board would need to approve the applications of that. So we're just reserving the money for the program, and the board also has to approve the written policy before. So I think that there's some.
So let's say that the levy comes back, or worst case scenario, we do not pass a levy this year. We're not tied to making these funds available.
Correct.
If we're, you know, if it's mission critical.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. And I'm good.
That's a great question that you asked.
I tried.
Yeah, you did good. I do have a question that anytime we do cost sharing, are there terms tied to it? Of, how long something has to be available for NPRSA usage, like the lifespan of whatever it is that we've contributed to or that kind of thing. Will
Yeah.
that be part of an agreement?
So we will look at that and put kind of language in there around like life cycle of an asset, also length of tenancy and what the contract looks like. I think that'll all go into the policy.
Perfect.
Yep.
Perfect.
Which the board will approve.
Because then that meets the goal of what NPRSA is doing, is that's providing facilities
Correct.
for the senior center to function in. So thank you.
And can you, thank you for this. I also agree you were able to kind of boil down our discussions and your discussion with legal into a few bullet points, which was super helpful. Can you put that 100,000 per year kind of in the context of our overall budget, which I'm not exactly remembering how large that is, approximately.
Yeah. So it'll be like 2 million annually. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah,
So this is a
very small percentage.
and we're just sort of putting a line item in there, and obviously we'd have
And
to
it-
approve any applications, and so
Correct.
okay, that's helpful for me to think about the total picture. All right. Other questions for staff? Otherwise, we can move to entertaining a motion. Okay. Since you all like to repeat the motion, I will just say the chair will entertain the motion that's there, and then you can read it.
I move to budget a line item for a cost sharing program in the 2026 to 2031 levy cycle and to authorize staff to write a cost sharing program policy.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any no's? I should have asked that each time, I suppose. Oh, motion passes. All right. Let's talk about the actual 2026-31 repairs plan,
All right.
which we have talked about before, but again, this is kind of formalizing it as the basis of the rate.
Yep. So the board saw this first in July 2024, and then also again at the joint board meeting in August 2024. And so the next slide is the actual items on that we're looking at potentially repairing. It's approximately $10 million in repairs over the 6-year levy. And I just want to remind the board that even though we have a list, this is really just a working plan. So we will prioritize accordingly. And that the board does approve the annual capital repairs plan throughout the levy cycle. And so we were looking at when we kind of broke this down and we used kind of the same numbers that we have currently for administrative and other costs. We were looking at completing this at like a 6 cents levy rate, but there are other factors now that we need to consider. At that time we weren't, the cost sharing was not kind of a factor, and then also we will need to do the ILA negotiations. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to prioritize these. I think that it's, and also, sorry, just to give you a glimpse of how we got to this list, we took the facilities assessment conditions report that we got from EMG, and we kind of broke down kind of the asset life cycle on each one of these, and we created a strategy on when we will be, the end of an asset. And so I think with that and kind of working with our architectural consultant on site every day and things that we're finding during construction, that we have a good grasp on what needs to be repaired within the next levy cycle. And also making some efficiency repair and replacement, electrical systems, and then also the lighting that will also help our tenant there save some cost savings on their monthly expenditures on those items too. So I think there are going to be some good repairs and replacements that we're doing in the next that'll help save energy costs.
Thank you. Questions from this group? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, quick comment. I think there was a comment about not fixing something until it's broken. And I'm going to just divulge my, personal information here, maybe too much personal stuff here. I'm married to a man who doesn't want to fix things until they're broken. I come from a father who said, that looks like that's going to need to be replaced, and fixed it. And having lived in both of those worlds, I like fixing things before they're broken. And I appreciate this list. Parking lot resurfacing is going to be a lot cheaper than having to redo the whole parking lot. And everything that I see up there is very sensible about preserving the building so it doesn't burn down. People are safe. And so I appreciate the list that's generated here, and it makes sense. I don't want to touch it unless if there's something else that, you would recommend putting on there that wasn't put on there. But I appreciate that list. It all looks very practical and sensible.
Other questions or comments for staff?
We might have a Bothell hive brain going on, because I was thinking about that comment too. And I'm in a cat and mouse game with my roof right now because I don't want to pay for it, but it's coming up. And I also don't want water all over my house. So it's one of those things where what my yes vote for this will be is we should have the money prepared when we need it. And also, it's a lot easier to resurface than to replace. And some things like, let's just replace those fire alarms every time that we think that they need it. Like for, some things you just make sure are working. So I really appreciate this thoughtful list. And again, a summary of a lot of discussion. So I appreciate that you guys took all that discussion and came up with a nice actionable list.
Sarah? Thank you. I would just echo the thoughts of my other board members here that preventative maintenance on some of these things is a lot cheaper than fixing things that are totally broken. And it also, I think, contributes to the safety and usability of the building for the seniors who are there every single day. And since we are in Woodinville City Hall, I have to use Woodinville's favorite word, grants, because I did notice that the state is offering some funding through Commerce for some of these improvements that offer energy efficiency on public buildings. And so I was curious, just as a little bit of an aside, if we have any sort of ideas or strategies about seeking that funding to help offset some of these costs.
Yep. We just had a conversation about looking into that. So it's not something that we have done in the past, but we're definitely looking at some of those options.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Sorry,
Yeah.
that just to tie it all back together to a previous discussion. When we talk about staffing, things like grants, like writing a grant is a hefty thing. So when we talk about staffing, I would encourage all of you when we have that discussion, not only are you able to do your job in the time you have with the staff you have, but are we able and flexible to apply for things like grants? Do we have enough room in who's working on NPRSA to get that stuff done? Because then that saves everybody money. But I also know Like, Christine, you do like 30,000 things. Like, I can't imagine you just like, no, I'll write a grant for fun. Like, I don't know when you would do it. So I just want to put that out there. So thank you for bringing
Yeah,
that up.
it's time, it's skill sets, the whole thing. So yes, thank you for putting this together, and it does culminate from a couple other presentations that have been much more detailed about the life cycle of these particular assets, which is key to understanding when they'll need to be replaced, how frequently, and how much they cost. And we, not only is it kind of prudent to do this kind of planning rather than waiting until something's broken, but we actually have to, because in order to set the levy rate, we need to have a pretty good understanding of how much it's going to cost to do those expected repairs. So I just want to underscore that. Okay, and in case, let's proceed to the motion unless there's other. I'm sorry, it's kind of out of order, but you're welcome to email us or, yeah. So, so the chair will entertain the following motion. Yeah.
I move to approve the 2026 to 2031 capital repairs plan as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great, motion passes, and I hope that we hear from the member of the audience by email. And my computer wants to reboot, which I'm not going to let it. Okay. All right, so the maintenance budget reserve is the next topic, and we are getting close to time, so we will have to make a decision about because I know we have another topic that we added and a couple of reports. Are we good with extending our time past 6:30? I want to get a sense of that. Can we go till, we might need to go even till 7, just understanding what we have before us? Okay, great, thank you. All right, how about staff? Okay, thank you.
good.
All right, maintenance budget reserves.
All right, so I'll go through a quick background. Over the last year, not going. Sorry. Over the last year, our board has considered a lot of different options over maintenance and what maintenance looked like, if the NPRSA was going to take over maintenance or not. And so in July, I believe, the board approved staff to proceed planning with our levy renewal to include regular maintenance of the HVAC only, and also with a budget for reactive maintenance. So that was kind of the decision the board made in July. So in December 2024, after a review of NSC's financial statements, and also, sorry, I lost my spot. Staff looked at kind of what we could do as stewards of a levy and on how we can make sure that we're protecting our asset and protecting our levy dollars, our public dollars. And so I think that it would be a good plan for the NPRSA board to have a budget line item of $214,000 annually, just as a reserve in case we do need to step in and take over some level of maintenance at some time. And so in the next budget cycle, sorry, my brain is everywhere. In the next levy cycle, we can use those funds for preventative or reactive. And so, and you know, kind of help our tenant make sure that the buildings are maintained so that they can operate and continue to give their services to our community members within our district. So any questions that you all have on that?
Go ahead.
I'm fully supportive of this. I am I hold to, we're the landlords, and if there is something that goes beyond vacuuming and making sure all water faucets are turned off, that kind of thing, the preventative piece, that's on us. So I'm fully supportive of putting that as part of our levy, of having a buffer there where we can step in and take care of things that need to be taken care of.
And this kind of also helps us kind of set the stage for conversations with the senior center and what their tenant agreement will look like in the new levy cycle. So I think that that this will kind of alleviate us having to make some of those tenant agreement decisions at this point, just budgeting for that and making a reserve for the entirety of the
thank you.
Maintenance.
Sarah? So by looking at it as one line item for both preventative and reactive maintenance, we're just setting aside some funds that then as we negotiate that tenant agreement, we can say, we do X, Y, Z, the senior center does A, B, C. And so that is when that negotiation about the nitty gritty of who does what and how we prove that it gets done takes place. Is that correct?
Correct.
So we're just approving the general idea of setting aside this funds, which I fully do support because again, we are the landlords and we want to maintain and preserve these buildings for our community to use.
Thanks. Same. I think we had comments about taking care of the senior center as through our rules on NPRSA, and this is part of that for me. It's not related to what was asked tonight in public comment, but taking care of the buildings, making sure that the senior center has a safe, welcoming, functioning place to conduct its programming and for people to gather is really important. And it reflects the fact that I think we all feel that we need to take this responsibility and be trusted with it. So I think this is important and I do support it because bottom line, however it happens, this is work that has to happen. And this is a way to help us make sure that it does.
And again, thank you. And again, this is helping us set our levy rate. So these are all kind of the things that undergird that rate, which is why we're addressing them now. All right. So other questions before we get to the motion? All right. The chair will entertain the motion on the screen.
I'll jump in. I move to budget line items in the 2026 through 2031 levy cycle for maintenance reserves.
I'll second. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right. Do we want to touch on maintenance reporting?
Yep.
Since we did do some work around that, this is sort of an update.
Yep. So in July 2024, the NPRSA Board expressed a need for improvement on reporting structures to ensure that maintenance was being performed as scheduled and to the NPRSA's satisfaction. This was also reiterated August 2024 at the joint board meeting between the NPRSA and the North Shore Senior Center. We also had an executive session regarding this. In October, the NPRSA and leadership and NSC leadership met to establish a more streamlined reporting requirements for the remainder of this levy. So the remaining 2025, basically. And so we kind of came to a consensus on what we would recommend moving into 2025 as far as reporting is concerned. And then also possibly using this as a model for what reporting will look like in the new tenant agreement. And so on the left-hand side is what is original in the current tenant agreement. And then on the right-hand side is what is proposed. So the first item that changed was, well, the current item is that NSC provides annual maintenance plan and budget. And so our proposal is that NSC provides an annual maintenance budget only, and that the senior center provides verbal progress reports quarterly to the board at our meetings instead of a written report. And then the second item that was discussed was that the NSC provide annual maintenance report. That's what currently is in our tenant agreement. And so the proposed is that NSC annually completes and submits a maintenance checklist. That checklist was in your packet. And so it is basically the Exhibit A that is in the tenant agreement. And so instead of, again, providing a full written report, they would just sign off on the checklist with a signature and date of completion and submit that annually to the NPRSA staff.
And it's, yeah, it's signature and date of completion of each of the items on the list.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
right.
And then the third item is that NSC provides copies of all maintenance records to the NPRSA. That's what is currently in the agreement. The proposed item is that NSC adopts the NPRSA records retention schedule, and the NPRSA will conduct annual audits. So basically, the records they will hold their own maintenance records, and then NPRSA staff will do an annual audit just to make sure that, maybe we'll just ask for 5 or how many ever documents, and they'll provide that. And then that will complete the audit and suffice that, as long as they're keeping our records retention schedule per RCW. So staff recommend that the NPRSA board consider the proposed amending reporting requirements for both the 2025 for both this year, and then also as a model for tenant contract negotiations.
I think what we talked about was just for 2025, because we don't know if it'll be a model until we try it.
Correct.
If we decide to try it. So I'd like to limit this discussion to, we've talked about this model. We're going to give it a go, see how it works, and then we could adopt it if it seems to be functioning the way we want. If that's okay with everybody else.
I was just going to say that if this meets, we have two competing needs here. We have the need to maintain our buildings and maintain the records for our buildings. As a public agency, we need to have those available for members of the public. And we need to not put undue burden on the senior center staff and board for, producing piles of documents when they really need to be running programs. So I think that as long as it meets at least basic requirements for both parties, I think that this is a great thing to attempt for the next year and see how it goes. Because since we do have to renegotiate that tenant agreement at the end of the year, it would be really nice to say, well, this worked or this didn't work, and have that information to feed into that process from both parties about this.
I don't want to create busy work, but I was thinking on the checklist, if there was a place to put a comment, just so that it's noted for the record, that something is flagged. So for example, say the response of, the agreement is to weed the beds. And someone does that, but they notice consistent pooling of water that's, close to the foundation. As yes, we we maintain the beds, but they observe that there seems to be an abnormal pooling of water, just a little comment section. So it's there and noted.
Good idea.
And, not a report, but just so that it's there and we can see it's been done, but somebody saw something. I don't know if that's a good place to put it or not, but it would be for me.
I think it's a great idea, except this is only annual. So I'd hope maybe that we could be alerted to issues before that. But it is good to have it documented.
But better late
Yes.
than never.
Yeah. So I'd say both and. The one question that I have, I'm sorry, any other questions? Then I'll ask mine. Okay, is the cadence, because if we are doing this once a year and then we have to figure it out for the levy, it might be kind of late to shift gears if we decide it isn't working. So I just want to make sure whatever we decide kind of will actually function the way we're thinking.
Yeah.
Because I think we talked about like late Q1 or something like that. Yeah. Is it possible? And I know we just introduced this, right? So, I mean, is it possible to kind of pilot it, like get a mock-up of like Q4 2024 as kind of like, did it work for you, Nathan? Does it work for us? Just kind of to pilot that in Q1 2025 to kind of see what it would look like, or is that not feasible?
Not only is it feasible, but we're actually trying it out for Q4.
Oh,
because
perfect.
We're already.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. We're seeing how we're test driving it right now.
All right.
Glad you went, because I was trying to get those words out myself. Because it is, if we say it's yearly and it
Right.
starts now, then it's really up against. So can you, and it doesn't matter to me who, but can we hear back how that went? And if it's an achievable process,
Yeah, and if we adopt this, then Nathan will be giving quarterly updates to the board. So,
Right. So I think what we're deciding tonight is, do we want to try this?
Yep.
And then if we say we do, then we'll get a report sometime late Q1, something like that, I think, right?
I meant specifically the completing the annual checklist, but like for like this last year's maintenance, like let's get a checklist now to see how that goes. So we're not waiting a year.
Yep.
Right.
So
That's what we're talking.
Yeah, we just talked about this.
I meant aside from the quarterly. Yeah. Okay.
Nathan will be presenting 2024's annual checklist at Q1 this year, and then we'll go into, and maybe we can just do like a 6-month check-in, just so that we can make those kind of decisions ahead of negotiating the tenant agreement. Yep.
Okay. Checklist check-in. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. Checklist check-in. Any other comments, questions? All right. I think we do we have a motion on this one, or is it just a direction? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, because I think, this is a deviation enough that I think, and actually it's a deviation from our tenant agreement, correct?
Yes.
Because
So
the earlier model, we're changing that for this last year.
Yes, and we can, what we can do moving forward for staff is to take your decision now, and if approved, then we can work on an amendment to the original contract, and you can approve that at our next meeting.
Yeah, maybe well, it's a good question. Do we wait to approve it until we see how it goes, or do we? Yeah, so I don't know the order of effect, but maybe you guys can think about that. Yeah. All right, so what we're doing here is moving to accept the reporting expectations, the checklist, and with the idea that we would try it out. All right, Chair will entertain that motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any other discussion or questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Let's have really quick updates. Staff reports. All right, Nathan?
I'll go quickly. Officially, my update tonight is supposed to be on maintenance, but I want to acknowledge there was a lot shared in the room in public comment tonight. And that it obviously has been a tough few months at the senior center. There are some wonderful people in the room, but there's some information that needs to be updated. Our board will be coming out with more information. There are a few things said tonight too that I'd love to respond to, and I'm going to continue to try and check in with folks too, and we're trying as an organization to help move forward. So more to come, but I just want to acknowledge that is ongoing. So. But just quickly, the maintenance updates specifically about the centers. We have a new facilities coordinator who's coming on for a few months to help us kind of get our work organized along these lines, along this plan, which will be really helpful. We're over the last few months still just sticking to our schedule of what we're doing: quarterly elevator inspections, fire extinguishers, annual fire alarm testing and control panel testing, semi-annual hood fire suppression systems were inspected, pest controls ongoing. Next up for us, we're doing some electrical panel inspections, getting those scheduled. We have some parking lot light repairs that we're working on, and then getting our carpet cleaning schedule for Q1 up and going too. So the work's underway, the plan's working. And that's my report for tonight.
Questions for Nathan? Yeah, Sarah.
Thank you. Just kind of in light of some of the comments that were shared tonight, I think there is a desire to hear back. You said there's more information coming. Do you know what the timeline on that looks like?
Yeah, we've been trying to respond. So I think the board's received a few of the responses that our board has put together. Some of the investigations that our board has done have come to a close, and they're preparing the response to those too, and releasing those findings. So those are coming too. We've done there's a variety of concerns were raised, and I think it's probably more appropriate to try and address those in a more detailed setting than just verbally in 2 or 3 minutes. But it's been a lot of change and upheaval in the last few months. We've lost some key staff that we didn't want to lose, and we've lost some great volunteers as well. There are a lot of we have some new staff coming on board that are exciting and doing some great work. There's a lot of things that are working. Our financial year ended up being almost all of our programs met their targets. Our fundraising program did its targets for the year, so there's some successes to celebrate. There's some wins that we've experienced the last few months too, but there's also a lot of hurt too that we're trying to work our way through. So.
Thank you, and I appreciate that there's a lot of information there. I just want to make sure that we are staying as informed as we can through this. So.
Thank you. Okay. Christine, do you have any more updates?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be real fast. So just to give you some quick updates on the projects that we have going on. So our pedestrian bridge project, the handrails, is substantially complete. We're just doing a little bit of touch-up work there. The envelope repairs and painting is going pretty good. I know that we were behind schedule, but it looks like we will have substantial completion by January 24th. So that is looking good. And then we have the Health and Wellness Center painting exterior is completed. So if you haven't seen that, our next meeting will be there. So that'll be great to look at. And then projects that are coming up that we're looking to go out and bid is the crawl space repairs over at the Health and Wellness Center, and then the grease trap repairs as well. So we're hoping to do that and also the vegetation project that we're ramping up to do over at the North Shore Senior Center in Q1. We hope to have those designs finalized and prepare to go out to public bid.
Awesome, thank you.
I believe also, I know it's not in, but I think Woodinville wanted to give an update real fast.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair and Board. I'll be just brief. Just a quick update on our acquisition process, and Mayor Millman, as usually does, kind of scooped me on the highlights of that this evening. But the city has been working quite extensively on securing those properties, as Mr. Millman mentioned. We've been doing quite a bit of pre-offer work, which is title searches, evaluations, appraisals, et cetera. We are preparing in the final stages right now, preparing the offer packages for council approval and consideration. That's next Tuesday. Right now, those are all in the form of an option agreement where the city would secure an option to purchase those sometime in the next 2 years is what we're offering. And that gives us some time. It gives NPRSA some time to go through its planning process, gets us the ability to do the due diligence on those properties that I know the board and staff is concerned about, but also gives, as was mentioned, the city of Woodinville time to secure additional outside funding if possible in that period of time. Our goal is to reach those negotiated agreements, but the council has passed an ordinance last week authorizing eminent domain if necessary for these property acquisitions. So far, I believe we have 2 that are probably willing sellers. We just got to work on the terms. One has been less communicative, and we are working to establish that communication line if possible, but may end up going eminent domain on one of those properties. But the process is well underway, and we're I know our biggest priority right now is to get on and be able to do that due diligence, the environmental review that the board is concerned about. So just a quick update on all that. Very well underway.
Thank you. All right, we wanted to have a few minutes of discussion for a topic that we added to the agenda to, in part, kind of address some of the concerns that were raised and some strategies for getting information, which we talked about a little bit just now. So Amanda, you brought up potentially talking to legal, and also how might we communicate with in what form, how, who, and in what form would we want to communicate with the NSC board? We do have a somewhat regular cadence with them, but we might want to have some sort of special communication. Suggestions?
Yeah, thank you. And I realize we're going a little longer than we thought. So, and I want to be clear that these suggestions aren't taking a position or making a judgment. I have a 9-year-old that you guys might have seen me go check in on earlier in the meeting. And sometimes you hear from 2 different folks and the truth is in the middle, and there's all shades of that. I am, and I think the whole board is very deeply interested in making sure that we do what we can do to ensure a healthy senior center. And with that in mind, I would ask that in our next meeting, we do have an executive session to understand what's available to us. Our deputy city manager once said, we want to know all of our legal options, which is a phrase that I'm absolutely stealing forever. So I would like to know that for what NPRSA can do, and then that helps us have a discussion on what we should do. And so I think the can do needs to come before we talk about reciprocal board member or anything like that. I think it's pretty straightforward to have someone on the NSC board. I think it's not as straightforward to have, if we would and if we could have someone on the NPRSA board. So I would love to explore that on our next agenda.
Yeah, and I have some other ideas. How about, I mean, general support for that idea to get some kind of legal parameters of what is in our scope, what isn't in our scope, that kind of a thing. Yep. Okay, general thumbs up on that.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would also say that one thing I know we absolutely can do is have joint meetings.
Exactly.
And I know we've been doing that think about once a year, maybe twice if we can make it happen. But I would love to see, especially with all of these questions being brought to both boards, maybe a more frequent meetings of the joint boards, bringing them together, perhaps with the ability to kind of do some strategizing for the upcoming levy and talking about just general health of the senior center and kind of recommitting ourselves to what the goal here is, which is providing services to the seniors in our community, which I think we all share that goal collectively.
And I'd like to say that we try to schedule that, shortly after our legal conversation, so that we can get right on that and have a conversation. Because just role clarification, we do feel somewhat appropriately constrained in how we communicate back and forth. So I think we want the guidance, but then follow that up quickly with the whatever conversation we can have. Does that resonate for folks? So I don't want to let this fester, I guess.
No, it does, but we also need to be mindful that the timeframe for the levy is ticking, and we want to be very thoughtful of
Yeah,
that.
so we have, I think, a couple of reasons to want to meet. Just getting down to brass tacks. So we have our next meeting.
So it's a nice segue.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, so right now, because of the levy and all the work that we have to do, staff is recommending that we at least have monthly placeholders on your calendars. If we don't have to have a meeting, we won't have a meeting. But in light of this,
I think we need it. Would anybody be averse to having a February meeting? It's a good question. National League of Cities, is that what you're talking about? It's a good question. It might be right around then, but I do want to schedule a February meeting if folks are amenable to that.
When I was talking to staff about their desire to have more regular meetings, I pointed out that the February meeting would be during AWC City Action Days. So that's.
Well, we don't have to go with that particular week, right?
Yeah.
it could be a different day.
Yeah,
a different
day, different
We
week.
also it's brought to our attention that it is like winter break too in this area. So we'll be mindful of that when we're scheduling.
Well, let's just take a quick look. So the week of the 17th is not a good week. Is that what we're saying? Right. Okay. So either the week of the 10th or the week of the 24th. Does anybody have preferences or problems?
If we're doing things that require staff work, the 24th, I'm sure, would be more welcome than the 10th.
Well, it's up to you guys.
We can.
On the, given the NPRSA is such a broad district, I have a Snohomish County Tomorrow's meeting on the 26th of February, but it's like 4 to 5:30. So if we could just see if we can do like 5:30, so I can just have a meeting after a meeting, probably after a meeting.
Yeah, I actually can't, if we're sticking with the Wednesday, I actually can't do the 12th. So do you want to do 5:30 on the 26th
That works
of February?
for us.
Okay, let's do that for our, and then we would have the executive session balled up in that, and then if you could start to reach out maybe around to the NSC folks around what their availability would be somewhere in that first couple weeks of March, maybe. Well, I guess maybe that's a little bit too rapid, but
NLC is, I just found my flight receipt. It's March 9th. I'm flying out. March 12th, I'm flying back. So it's not that big. Yeah.
So we could, well, and our
March regular meeting is
our March regular meeting is the 19th. Is that, so that is okay then? Oh, so, okay. So maybe we could make that an expanded meeting with a portion being with the,
a joint board.
if they can do it. If not, we need to figure out a time right around then,
Okay.
that you could do like Survey Monkey kind of thing, you know, I mean, a doodle poll because I don't want to, I mean, that's already quite a ways from now.
Yeah.
If anything, you know, making it sooner.
Okay.
So
Work with Nathan and get.
I mean, I'm expressing my opinion. Is that, do others share that opinion that we want to not go past that? Yeah. Okay. All right. Very good. Well, and it isn't even 7. All right. Do we have anything else? We talked about the last item on here.
I will,
Yep.
with your, thank you. I want to add, not everybody goes to Robert's Rules meetings for fun, like maybe the 4 of us up here do, and our staff maybe the most. It is more formal to keep the meeting in order. Please reach out to us. Like, you can maybe catch us on the way out now, depending on what everybody's going to. Also, please email us. I know in our council rules, we will have coffee or meet with you or whatever you want. Like, I don't want you to feel like you didn't get a chance tonight, so your chance is gone. Please reach out to us if you would like to chat. That is our job, and we are happy to do it. So I just want everybody here to not feel like they missed their shot. So thank you.
Thank you for saying that. Yes, indeed. And I was kind of trying to express that before, that, you know, we're all available by email in our respective cities, or through NPRSA, they can get us messages that way as well. So yeah, really appreciate that and encourage that. So all right. If there's nothing else before us, we are adjourned.